Hey cabbages, so I know this may be a little late, but I finally have a killer tip video for the new killer in Dead by Daylight Nemesis. Nemesis is actually quite a fun killer to play with an interesting power that's super useful but can also be a bit of a hindrance. I'm going to go through the basics of this killer, his perk, a recommended build to use with this killer, a few ideas that you can try with his add-ons, and at the end just go through a few of my personal thoughts and tips about this killer. These tips are mainly aimed towards console players but are easy enough to move over to PC. There are timestamps to each of these parts in the description if you want to see just a specific part. If you have any questions or your own tips or insights on the Nemesis, leave a comment down below to help some other poor soul lost in this foggy cabbage patch. If you want to see more videos and guides, let me know by leaving a like on the video, it would mean so much. Alright, on to what you want to see. Nemesis is a standard killer who moves at 4.6 meters per second. He punches as his attack, and his special ability is a tentacle strike that grows out of his arm. This gives him a little bit more range, kind of similar to Pyramid Head. This tentacle strike applies a contaminated effect onto the survivor, and the next time you hit them with the tentacle, you'll take a health state off them. On top of this, the tentacle strike levels up as you hit survivors with it, allowing you to break pallets with the strike and get slightly more range at level 3. If this wasn't enough to get you to play the killer, he also spawns zombies around the map that can hit survivors and affect them too. This helps with a little bit to pressure gens and a little bit of passive tracking on survivors. When you use the tentacle strike, your movement speed slows down to 3.8 meters per second, and whether or not you miss an attack, there's a 2.5 second cooldown. While the tentacle can be fun to use, I wouldn't recommend using it out in the open, as you basically have to hit the survivor 3 times, and they can make a lot of distance and run you for a lot longer if you commit to hitting them. To level up the tentacle strike, you can either hit a survivor or the zombie. Don't worry, the zombies respawn after 12 seconds, unless a survivor stuns them with a pallet, then it's 45. If you hit a healthy survivor with the tentacle, you get 3 points of contamination, 1 point for a contaminated survivor or a zombie. You need 6 points to level up to tier 2 for the tentacle, and 15 points to get to level 3. His 3 unique perks are Lethal Pursuer, a perk to let you see the auras of all the survivors at the start of the trial for a max of 9 seconds, which is so good for early game. Hysteria. This is a perk that whenever you injure a survivor, all other survivors that are injured suffer the Oblivious status effect. This can be super useful as a kind of hit and run type of play style, get a lot of people injured and then sneak around, sneak up on the other injured ones. Lastly, there's Eruption. Every time you put a survivor into the dying state, all the gens that you kicked, which will be marked in yellow, lose a 6% progression immediately. And if anyone was working on them, they become incapacitated for a max of 16 fucking seconds, which means they can't work gens for 16 seconds and they scream, so you get to find them real quickly. Super useful perks, but you do have to take time to kick gens, so kind of a bit of slowdown there for yourself. Okay, so what would I recommend playing with this killer? Honestly, there's a lot you can do with this killer in a lot of different playstyles, so if you don't agree with this, feel free to try something else and let me know in the comments how it works for you. What I think you should go with is something like I have here. Save the best for last, this way you have less cooldown to deal after each of your basic attacks, and you can just tentacle slap your obsession to avoid losing stacks. Ruin, cause ruin. Lethal Pursuer to get the early game started real quick and get you right into the first chase. Now, I chose Corrupt Intervention to pair with Lethal Pursuer to have an even better early match, but I feel you may want to change this if that's not where you struggle. If you have a bad early game, use this. If not, change Corrupt for something like Eruption, Pop Surge for extra gen defense, or Barbecue and Chili for extra tracking and a bit of blood points. Okay, so his add-ons are kinda average. I'm not going to go through all of them, I'm just going to give you a few ideas of what you can try for a few different playstyles. His add-ons focus mainly on the zombies, vaccine supply crates, and mutation rates, with a few exceptions. You can use add-ons to make the zombies kinda okay, with the likes of Admin Wristband and Mikhail's Eye to increase detection range and speed of the zombies, but honestly their AI is so trash that I wouldn't really be bothered, but it's an idea. Some useful add-ons could be the mutation rates, such as the T-Virus sample and Marvin's Blood, to level up your tentacle strike quicker by hitting zombies and survivors. This way you can raise through the levels real quick and get to the point where you can break pallets and get that longer range, which is just makes it much more useful. Honestly, what I would consider the strongest add-on is the serotonin injector. When you hit a zombie, you gain the undetectable status effect for 15 seconds, which is really easy for getting an early start on a chase, sneaking up into spyverse, stuff like this. Combine this with the T-virus sample to mutate quicker when you hit a zombie. You become a pretty strong killer pretty quickly. Okay, my final thoughts and tips on this killer. Nemesis can be very strong if used well. His tentacle can give you a big advantage on short loops as you can hit over them if, you know, they're not high walls, and when vaulting windows and pallets as well, because they're stuck in the animation, they can't really do much. But if you're out in the open, not so much, especially if the survivor is healthy, because you had to hit them 3 times. They can make so much distance and loop you for so long and just run forwards. As PC players say, hold W and just keep running. You might lose 2 gens for each chase if you do this, and by the time you get 3 hooks, gates could be open. I would, if you can, use your punch instead of the tentacle. Using his power up pallets can be very useful as the survivor's locking the animation. As I said, it's basically free hit, but the sound of your power activating can be used to bait them into not dropping the pallet, so you can get that extra loop out of them and maybe hit them. But there is a bit of slowdown, as I mentioned, that comes with doing this, so I wouldn't do this too often unless you're comfortable with your looping. If you are just off hitting with your tentacle, you can move slightly with your left flick side to side, and this may still get you the hit as your tentacle retracts. The hitbox for the tentacle stays active for about half a second or so after it fully extends, so slightly shifting can land you to hit or cause the survivors to run into it. Okay everyone, I really hope you enjoyed this video or found it helpful in some way. If there's anything you feel I left out, be sure to let me know in the comments so we can all learn together. If you want to see more content like this, please leave a like on the video and consider subscribing. Until next time everyone, stay comfy.